See, it's stuff like this that gives me trust issues.
Welcome to the Trust Issues Podcast. We have trust issues with the traditional society-dictated path, with the status quo, with the whole get an education, land a job, and work tirelessly until you're 6 feet under. It's time to upgrade your life with the help of us. I'm Erika.
And I'm Kyle, Auckland. We're a husband and wife duo, but we're also entrepreneurs, biohackers, and business builders.
Every week, we're dedicated to having purposeful conversations with each other and leading experts on topics like wellness, relationships, and entrepreneurship.
Subscribe to Trust Issues Podcast if you're looking for bold topics, honest dialogue, and valuable lessons.
Welcome back to another episode of the Trust Issues Podcast. Today, we have a really interesting, I think, and awesome conversation planned for you. I feel like I'm always the one doing the talking, maybe because I can't shut up, and you are going to be interviewed today. Kyle is going to be interviewed. If you're new to the podcast, Kyle and I are husband and wife. Welcome to our show. And my husband and I are co-hosts. We play co-host to each other. Sometimes I overtake things. I have a lot of things to say. And Kyle's definitely more of the observer and, the deep thinker. But we have had a lot of conversations recently, and I've had a lot of questions lately around how do you master it all? How do you do it all? I think when you see us on social media, you think we have it all together. Trust me, we're not perfect at all, and we have a hot mess life that we're navigating to. Parenthood, trying to take care of ourselves, navigating multiple businesses. And one thing that I'm really proud of to say is that my husband really is someone who tries really hard in everything he does and really tries to put his very best into anything he does. And it can be really challenging to navigate all the things while still trying to do your best. So today we're going to sit down with Kyle and we're going to have a conversation around harmony, around balancing, figuring out, getting in your head a little bit, figuring out how you do seem to do it all. And any advice you would have to someone who is listening right now and they just feel like they have so many plates spinning in the air and they're just not sure how to balance it. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Oh, dear. If you're on the show, you know that we love to laugh. And that's one thing that I will say about you is that even when things are burning and it feels like things are hard.
Yeah,
you always bring the laughs.
You can't, even as difficult and sometimes stressful and overwhelming life can be, or business or raising a child, it's you can't take life too seriously.
You cannot.
You gotta laugh at yourself. Sometimes you gotta laugh at your situation and move forward.
You do. And I think we do a pretty good job of that. But you're definitely the one steering the ship on that because I can get a little chaotic. So
I try.
You do a good job.
Yeah.
So we're going to dive into some questions that we have for you, and we want to know your secrets. So a lot of people listening to this podcast have told me that they're amazed at how you do harmonize life, family life, being a parent, obviously our marriage, being someone who's also in multiple businesses right now. And really, I think how you put your health, your mental health and your physical health at the top. I think a lot of times, in this entrepreneur space, there's this narrative that we hear around, we want happiness and success in a couple things, right? Our relationships, our health, our finances, parenting, but you can't have it all. Yeah. And we kind of disagree with that. I think that you can integrate life, but I would just love to hear from you. What do you feel your secret is to balancing all of those things and still keeping your personal health and well-being at the forefront as a top priority?
Yeah. Well, I think first off, just leading into this whole discussion, I am very honored that people think I have it all together and I'm harmonizing perfectly. And I'm glad on the outside it looks like I'm doing all these things right, because sometimes on the inside you feel like all you do is drop those plates and things are, it feels like things can be very messy at times. But yeah, so it feels good to know that, that is kind of the view from the outside. But I will say, I guess starting off with just health, mental health, leading into this, I think a big plus that I have on my side is that physical movement, getting outside, doing some of these things has been ingrained for many years in me. Being a trainer, just kind of embodying that life from kind of an early age, that's been a huge tool to have in my toolbox. Basically because to be where we're at right now in life with all these things going on in marriage and child, and then try and get into that space of, you know, working out, doing those things. It'd be a lot harder to do that, you know. So
it's already part of you.
Yeah, it's already ingrained. And I know, and you know, if I don't take some of that time to invest in myself, and honestly, a lot of times it feels like, you know, if I go and try and work out or do something, I'll feel guilt because I'm like, I'm being selfish, taking away from our family or taking that moment or hour to myself because I know I could be giving that to you or Dawson or work or something like that. So sometimes I feel guilty even doing that, but I know, God, it's so necessary. When I don't physically get out and move, or I don't sit down and take some time for myself, I am never in a good headspace, and it just feels like the wheels are spinning and spinning and spinning. So
you are a completely different person in the times that you are taking care of yourself and you have your rhythm and you have the time for yourself versus when you don't.
Yeah.
And it's very tangible. And I think that that's just a testament of why it's so important to pour from a full cup. You cannot pour or pull from an empty cup.
Yes.
From no resources. And when you give yourself your own resources and access to that is when you do show up and you have so much more patience and you're more present. And I think that that's something to be said about, like, you know, you should never feel guilty. If you're listening, you should never feel guilty about taking the time that you need to take care of yourself and pour into yourself, because eventually you'll crack if you don't. And I know we've both been in seasons where like our own personal well-being wasn't top priority, and it didn't end up well.
Yeah.
You know, we definitely struggled with our own health for sure. And then that just bled into everything else.
Yeah. And that's where, like you just said, bleeding into everything else for me, it's, you know, if I'm not doing those things, it will end bad. It will. It's like, I'm not a good husband. I'm not a good father. And I'm not making that as an excuse. So if I don't work out, I'm not this. But like, there's been many years now of trial and error of like, you know, trying to change it up, do a different path, and it just hasn't worked.
Well, I think there's such a conversation. I'm sorry that I know that I'm interviewing you, but I have opinions too. I'm like, I think there's such a conversation for women about self-care.
Yeah.
Every woman is like, self-care, go to the spa, da-da-da-da-da. Like, I don't see them really talking about it for men. No. Like, you know, going to the spa, get a massage, going on a walkabout, like going to the gym, having an hour in the sauna, like, I don't know, whatever you guys do. Like, I think that's so important. I mean, we do have a sauna at home, and whenever, you know, you can, I know you like jump into the sauna, but we don't talk about that stuff for men. It's so normalized for women, but it's not normalized for men. And I think men deserve that, because especially as a leader of a family and a leader of a household, like, if the leader isn't solid, then the whole thing crumbles.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's you can look at suicide rates and everything. Everything's down to men. It's like more men kill themselves than women. It's like, yeah, it's, you know, it's just, it is what it is. And that's, I mean, I literally just showed you that. I found this page on Instagram. They're called like the Amend Brotherhood or something. And it's basically, they're based in New Zealand and Australia, but it's literally this, you can sign up and you basically go on almost like a walkabout. And it's basically just a ragtag group of men from all walks of life. And they engage in things like primal therapy, where like these 30 or 40 men are at the bottom of a waterfall, just like the water's pouring over them, and they're screaming at the top of their lungs and like punching the water. And it's like releasing their stress and releasing, you know, some of their demons. And I think there's definitely a rise, though. There's awareness of that, of like, men, it's, you know, it's,
you have to take care of yourself.
You have to take care of yourself. If you have a family, if you, you know, you have goals for your family, like, you have to step up. You have to, you know, get yourself physically moving, you know, because you want to be around for your family too. That's the other thing.
Yeah, like that needs to be normalized. Yeah. And like, I saw those videos and I was like, go. You need to go. Like, go.
I'm like, this is something I really want to do. It was like, you know.
And there's so many, you know, conferences or self-development groups for women. And I think normalizing it for men is so powerful. So we're on to something there. That's really good. How about organization in your life and your routine? I think that, you know, a lot of people think, oh my gosh, like Kyle's so regimented, so organized. Like, what's your thoughts on that? Do you feel organized? Are you organized? Do you have a routine that keeps you solid? Talk about that.
Pre-child, The routine was a lot more strict, a lot more easy to stick to. I think becoming a dad, a lot of that has shifted around, especially like time wise too. So like really the biggest thing I've done, I don't feel like I'm very organized. I feel like that is something I'm trying to get better at. I feel like I'm kind of all over the place, but I would say I've gotten pretty good at carving out small spaces for myself. So like even to boil it down as simple as a workout, it's like I used to go, whether I'd go to the gym or just be in our garage or whatever, I'd carve out like 90 minutes. And now it's really not something that's feasible with the stuff we're trying to pursue and, just raising Dawson and very much doing it more on our own together. So like, 20 or 30 minutes here or there, maybe twice a day, instead of like carving out this big chunk. But as far as like being organized, that is something, it might seem like I was way more organized, but that's something I'm working on. Like, getting a lot more integrated with my Google calendars and making sure blocks and times are carved out for different things. And boundaries have been huge. I feel like you always call me like this stoic man and stuff, but I was very much a yes man to a lot of people, where like if someone needed me or something needed to get done, I was like, yes.
Needed, air quotes.
For sure. And I'm like, yes, I'll do it right now. Like if something came up, I'd drop whatever I was doing to make sure that person could have their thing, or, whether it was hanging out with a friend or doing something. But I said this on another episode where I feel like in this season of my life, and I actually don't really care what some people think, but I mean, this is just my truth of like, I have tried to get very selfish for myself and my family in this season. And I know that can come off as like, oh, he's mean or a jerk or whatever. But I'm just like,
you're such a jerk.
Well, I'm like, I'm not,
Carl's
you
like
can't
the
be
nicest
everyone's,
person on
you can't be
planet
everyone's
Earth.
friend. And I think there's seasons of your life where you have to, hone in on what you want, and to achieve those things, you have to.
Well, the truth is that people who are also going after their own things and they have their own priorities in place, they're not offended by that. They know life is crazy. We've got kids, we've got, work, we've got career, we've got projects, we've got other things going on. So anyone who is offended by that or upset by that isn't even your person, because they should be focused on themselves too. And I think that the beauty of community is coming together without strings attached. But when there's like a ton of strings attached, I think it comes from a place of like unhealthy expectation. Yeah. And we're so like, we don't have high expectations of other people. We meet you where you're at. If your life is crazy and we can't talk to you for a month, like we're not mad at you. We get it because we're in it. We're in the thick of it too.
And that's something I was literally, you kind of led me into this next point of like, I have found some more men and people where it's that same type of relationship where it's like, hey, we can talk about real things, but then, if 2 months pass before we really connect again, then 2 months pass. Because it's not like we're out like lollygagging around, hanging out with random people. Like,
oh my gosh, yeah.
It's like, no, we have families and our heads are down and we have goals we're trying to hit, and there's businesses and there's, and it's real life things. And it's like, and then if I have a struggle or a question, I can reach out to some of these people and, they do the same exact thing.
And they're in your corner.
Yeah. So like, I feel like my sphere has gone like this.
Your like sphere of influence, your circle.
But now it's people who are kind of after the same things. And, not to say that you're better than anyone else. Everyone's on their own battle of life and what they're achieving. But it's like, for this season, have a smaller sphere, and it's people who are doing the same things, and they don't hold those same expectations, and it feels good.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about some challenges that you face, or challenges that you are currently navigating? You faced past tense, faced currently, that you'd like to share when trying to manage it all, when trying to juggle it all?
Like I said, starting this episode, I'm very hard on myself. I am a recovering perfectionist. It's a disease.
You don't have a disease.
But no, it's something I battle every single day. So I mean, just being as transparent as I can, there's probably a couple points every day where I feel like I dropped the ball, or I didn't do enough, or didn't move the needle like I should. So it's that constant battle of just trying to be better. And I think maybe that, in the simplest terms, and maybe this isn't the answer most people want, but like, I think that's the answer for me. Every day I just try and be better. Like if there's certain phone calls that need to be made or conversations that need to happen, past me maybe would push them off or not move the needle, but now I'm like, no, we have to do the hard things. And I think it's just doing some hard things every day and trying your best every day. And that's kind of where my cards lie now. So that's kind of just what I've been doing. So like getting more organized, because I wasn't always organized, like having better boundaries, being more intentional. Don't half-ass two things, whole-ass one thing,
Yeah.
Like, and apparently it's slowly working, because there's people who are like, how are you juggling? And I'm like, wow, it's working. So that's just,
Well, it's interesting. You sent me this book yesterday that I wanted you to mention because I thought it was super fascinating, and you sent me this text yesterday. It's so funny. Like in our busy days, I feel like sometimes we'll text each other because it's like you're on the other side of the house, I'm on the other side. We're both getting our work done. And you mentioned the book 10X.
10X is better than 2X.
10X is better than 2X.
Dan Sullivan.
And we can find that and link that in the show notes. But
yeah.
I think that's kind of like what my perception is of where we're both at and where you're at. It's almost like right now we're in such a season of putting such a strong foundation in for our life.
Yeah.
It is like not like a step back, but it feels slow. Some days it feels like we are literally trudging through mud.
Yes.
And like some days I feel like we're just trying to keep our head above water,
Mm-hmm.
but we are building things that I think will actually impact us for the next 20, 30, 40 years. And I think there's something to be said about that because you're like doing that right now.
Yeah. Well, and that's shout out to my buddy Matt for introducing me to this book. Basically, the whole conception of this book is it's almost easier to 10x your life than it is to 2x. So basically, the 2x methodology is you're basically ramming yourself against a wall. Maybe after a year or 2 years, you're moving the needle just a little bit, which can very much lead to burnout and, resentment and not achieving what you truly want to achieve. And I think a way to look at it is, as a business owner, you should be innovating, creating, painting a vision for the future of your business, whereas 2xing is you're micromanaging your business and you're just pounding your head against the wall, right? And by 10xing that, getting people in your, whether it's your assistants or just your team around you, helping them be the best versions of themselves and getting what they want, because in turn that will truly get you what you want. And that's kind of the theme of the 10x. And basically, I think it was actually my buddy Matt who said that to me, the quote where he's like, would you rather work really, really hard to add another horse to your buggy? Or would you rather pause to build a car that can take you miles and miles faster?
Whoa.
Right. So that's like the 2x versus the 10x.
That's
so I feel
good.
like
I
right
want the
now,
car.
Right, exactly. And right now in the season, it kind of feels like we've taken a couple steps back, but in reality is we are sowing the seeds, laying the groundwork to build that car,
Isn't that the truth?
Yeah.
It is the truth.
Yeah. 10x baby.
10x baby.
So
we're like Grant Cardone up in here.
yeah.
It's so good. No, that's such a good analogy, and I'm so here for it. And I just encourage anyone who feels like maybe you're like hunkered down and your head down and you're working on something and it's, like the viability of it for future is huge, but you just don't see the results quite yet.
Yeah.
We get it. We're building so many things right now. It's actually crazy. It almost feels like how is this even real and how is this our life? We have multiple businesses, multiple things. And I always used to remember like hearing people that would talk about like, oh, I own this many businesses. Like,
Sure.
Tony Robbins has like, I don't know, 500 businesses or whatever.
Yeah.
And I would just be like, how is that possible? Like, I don't even get it. Like, I can hardly manage one. And now I think with so much like work that we've done on ourselves, outsourcing, really learning how to grow one business and then learning how to scale, it's like, okay, now I'm seeing it, I get it. And it's not easy, but wow, it is really possible.
Yeah. And I think that's a great tip to share if there is, men on here listening or whoever just struggling with, how do I move to the next phase of my life? How do I become a better husband, leader, business owner, whatever it is? And I think you might actually have to pause and, truly evaluate where you are, who you are, what you're reading, who's influencing you, what your goals are, your family life, what all this, you have to take stock of, the inventory in your house and what you're doing. And I think by doing that, you can set the proper boundaries. You can write the proper roadmap for your business or your family, or, and I think that's something everyone needs to do, because that we are in such a society right now where if you stop anything, you're looked at as a failure, or you're lazy, or you're whatever. And it's like, it's quite the opposite. It's very beneficial to stop and be like, what the hell are we doing?
We did that this summer a lot.
Yeah.
We stopped a lot.
Yeah. Because it's like, what do we truly want? What matters? Like, what are we, working for? So
that's really powerful. Okay. So another question for you is, what do you feel like some of the top lessons that you have learned that has helped you become the man you are today?
Don't be the lone wolf. I shared this before. Don't be an island. Especially as men, we can take all the burden and hide everything away. And, that can lead to a very dark place. So find your sphere, whether it's just one other mentor or partner or whoever that you can have some real conversations with, a pastor, someone who's close to you. Don't hold everything in. Find someone who can, bounce ideas off with you, and just, maybe someone who's not your wife or your partner. So yeah, don't be an island. Have hard conversations with your spouse. Be vulnerable. I think that's something that's very important. I know for me and you, after having Dawson, this whole past year or so, I went through like this emotional crisis, because when I was younger, I lost my father, and I think I had a lot of internal issues that I thought I processed and I didn't process, and they all came like flooding back this past year. So I kind of had a shutdown season for a little bit where I didn't know what was going on, how to handle it. It was like, who am I? Like, it was what I've never experienced that. I cried more in this past year or so than I have in, I don't know how long. So, but it was very healing and it was needed. And, so be honest, be open. I could have very easily kept so much of that from you, but I wanted you to know.
But how cathartic for you to be able to just not have to hold it in.
Oh, it's very freeing. It was like, and that's, I think both those points there kind of tie in together, but that has allowed me to free space to become more organized, be a better husband, be a better father. And it's like, so I think that was another huge point for me. I guess getting on to a lighter note, honestly, just like personal development, reading, taking, and I'm sure just like many couples and people, we still have our nights where we are so drained, we just want to turn on Netflix and zone out, but I think getting disciplined with what our nighttime routine looks like, because if we are chasing certain goals, we have to cut out some crap and, put in some extra work here and there. So being more disciplined in that area, a little smarter with where we spend some of our time, our free time, I guess you could say, like where do we want to put that towards being personally developed and reading some more and doing some more necessary work that's not taxing, or, kind of zone out and just watch some Netflix. So you got to, little give or take there sometimes. So that was a big thing for me, honing in on your health through busier, difficult times. I think if you are watching your nutrition, supplementation, minerals in your water, just little things will go such a long way in busy, even dark seasons, honestly, taking care of your body. That's a huge thing I've done this past year. So I think those are just a couple things. And honestly, asking for help. There's been times where I'm like, listen, I don't know what I'm doing in this area, so I don't want to be completely in charge of it or whatever. And it's like, we've kind of handed the ball off to some other people here and there for certain areas in our life, and that's necessary. You don't have to do everything on your own. You know? So I think those are all good tips. I hope that helps somebody.
I think it does. It's super impactful because I think a lot of men aren't having this conversation. So it's really good. So another question for you is, do you have any strategies for staying grounded? Strategies for staying grounded amidst the chaos of life, that you can share with other dads, other husbands, men who are entrepreneurs?
For me, the simplest one I always come back to is physically moving, that is my magic bullet for so many things. And that might not be for some men, but for me, that is my getting outside, alone time, and physically moving. Those are like my 3 things. If I can do those things throughout the day where you can just go out and exhale, leave your phone off to the side, move your body, stretch, get your feet in the ground. Those are kind of my three big things, really. And I know they're simple, but I think simple is better than complicated.
100%, because then you can do it.
Yes. So
another question for you is, what would you say to the husbands and fathers listening that think, you must be Superman because they just can't keep up with everything, no matter how hard they try? Do you have any last words of encouragement?
This is my personal view. I think you do have to be kind of a Superman. I think that's just part of my view of a man. I think that's kind of the card you're dealt as, being a father and a husband. And it can feel very overwhelming knowing that you have to take the brunt of things. I think accepting that role, and then also knowing that you don't have to do it alone. Like I said, you can be vulnerable with some other men to help. You can learn from other guys. You can learn from other fathers. You can implement strategies where you still get time to yourself. Like I said, getting outside, working out, even going to a coffee shop by yourself for a little bit or something. Like, I think there are strategies where it doesn't have to feel so overwhelming, because I've been in those phases. I know I've only been a dad now for just under 2 years, but it's like, I feel like I've had times in my life where it's like, yeah, I carry all the weight for our family, and, and that's it. And that's all you do. And you're just like holding your breath, and it's like, that is not healthy. And yeah, you're going to be like, I don't want to be Superman. I don't want to take that burden on. But I think if you accept that and use healthy tactics to, work with it, I think it's okay to, you'll make it. Honestly, it's like,
I think not only make it, but you can thrive.
Yeah.
And I think when you think about masculine and feminine roles, the masculine is a healthy masculine is not resentful.
Yeah.
That's their role. And I also think that when they're partnered with a healthy feminine energy, there is so much like pride in that role, so much honor in that role.
Yeah.
And it's not a bad thing that there's so many things that lie on your shoulders. It's an honor because your whole family trusts you and your whole family knows that you're the protector, and you're going to, no matter what, like take care of everything. And that's how, I can probably speak for Dawson. He can't say it yet, but it's like, how our son probably sees you. I can tell he's just like obsessed with you. And I think like he knows you're his protector. He knows that you like are just always there. And I think there's something about honoring the masculine and honoring that role, that if you're struggling to think like, oh man, I can't be that person, I'm not the Superman, I'm overwhelmed, I have so much going on, I think just start studying what is a true healthy masculine role. Yeah. There's so many great resources. There's so many great books about this. I know you've read a couple really great books about the healthy masculine. And I think, an unhealthy masculine is, that's where they come up with toxic masculinity. It's like, well, if there's a toxic man, it's because he's not in an empowered place. Yeah. But when you're in an empowered place, like this role is an honor. This role is not because I have to carry it all. It's because I'm the strongest. Yeah.
And you said it perfectly. Everything I was trying to say, you basically summed that up right there. Because it is an honor to have that role. And, like you said, it's empowering. And I think some of the things, even in business wise and stuff I'm working towards, only get me more excited for that role. Because it's like, I'm doing these things for you, for Dawson, for our future, for, whatever comes next. And it's like, it's exciting. And it's kind of like, pick up your shield and go. That's like kind of the energy I'm in right now. So.
I get some 300 vibes, 300 vibes with it. It's so good. I'm sure it's encouraging. And I hope that if you've listened to this and either you're, the feminine and you are trying to help your partner be more in his masculine and help him step into that role more, I think listening to this would be helpful. Yeah. And I hope that you share it with your spouse and your partner, that they can hear this and feel the empowerment that I know you've had to go through a lot to feel that, and a lot of work, a lot of work. Yeah. But I think that's what makes our family so strong. And we've been through so many things, and sometimes it feels like it never stops coming.
Yeah.
There's
been countless days I've wanted to be like, all right, I give up. Like, you have this day, you're just like, I'm done. What are we doing?
It's like people disappoint you, things disappoint you, situations are hard, so many things. But I think when you have a really strong masculine at the helm, the family just really operates. And I think something that I've learned as being a wife is, when you tell me I got to go move, I'm like, no, babe, go. Because I've really learned that when you have that moment and you're healthy, our whole household is completely different. Yeah. And it's really important to me that you feel good, because when you do feel good, then I feel good. Like we're all, and I also think there's, just to go back to, you talked so much about physical energy and physical movement. I think for women, there's so much emotional energy. Yeah. And I think for men, even just raising a little boy, I see so much physical energy in him. And I think for men, there's so much physical energy that gets trapped in your bodies. And I think that's why you moving really helps you get grounded and helps you release all that.
Yes.
And I think for us as women, that's why we want to process, we want to talk about it, we just want you to listen. We're just like, let me just dump and vent on you, because that's where all of our emotional energy gets released.
And it's funny because even physically but emotionally too. I mean, there's been multiple times this past year where I feel like I've wanted to do two birds with one stone, especially if I work out. So I know a lot of people do this too, but like I listen to a lot of different trainings or podcasts, or depending on my mood, even like just some like worship music, just like uplifting, like if I'm going through something, and there's been, the past year in my workouts and stuff, I would say my workouts and how I'm feeling have been, there's probably been moments I felt better or had better workouts, but as far as like blockages and emotional things I've worked through, it's really been through my workouts and doing these things. Like I've been rebounding and stuff and listening to stuff, and I just start crying while I'm rebounding. Like it just hits you, and you're like, oh my God, like what's happening, or like aha moments in business or trainings, or where you feel stuck and you hear something while you're moving your body and your blood's flowing, and like it just clicks better, and you're not, just sitting at a desk and stale and stagnant. And it's like, so that has been, two birds, one stone with me. I've had some of my best moments moving my body, and it's like sometimes you can see someone just like with their headphones on, and it's like, oh, they're just a meathead working out or something, but really they're like,
dude, heck
working
no.
on themselves as they're working on themselves.
Yeah,
so
that's so good.
Yeah,
so good. Well, thank you so much for listening to the Trust Issues podcast today. If you loved this episode, leave a review on iTunes. Your reviews help us get our message out to more people, and that is our mission with this show. And it also helps us get amazing guests on the podcast. And share it with a friend. If you love it, maybe forward this episode with someone that you feel needs this message today, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, guys.